Thank you. On Tuesday, Hezbollah's most senior military commander, Fiyad Shakur, was killed in a strike in Beirut, Lebanon. He played a central role in the October 23, 1983 bombing of the U.S. Marine Corps barracks in Beirut, which killed 241 U.S. military personnel and wounded 128 others. There's a $5 million bounty on his head by the United States when he was killed in Lebanon. Yesterday, Hamas chief political leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed in a strike in Tehran, Iran. He's been the political leader of Hamas since 2017. Israel is right to hit the leaders and masterminds of terrorism, organizations bent on the destruction of the Jewish state, anytime, anywhere. It is time to end the charade that the world is playing when it comes to Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. They're one and the same. So I will be proposing legislation, a resolution, a sense of the Senate resolution I introduced today, that says that any escalation by Hezbollah against Israel that leads to a major confrontation should be viewed as an attack carried out and executed by Iran. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, President Kennedy rightly indicated that an attack emanating from Cuba against the United States would be an attack emanating from the Soviet Union. We would hold the Soviet Union liable for any attack coming from Cuba because Cuba was a proxy of the Soviet Union. That same doctrine, in my view, applies to Iran. What should the target list include? Where's my... Not only should Israel hold Iran accountable for any escalation by Hezbollah, the United States should do the same. What should the target list include? It should include those facilities most vital to the funding of terrorism. It should include refineries. If Hezbollah attacks Israel, it's my hope they will have one less refinery than they do today. It is time to hit the Ayatollah in the pocketbook. His oil refineries are the lifeblood of his regime. Without those refineries, they would not be able to fund terrorism. So I am going to ask the body to take up this resolution in September and see where the Senate is on the idea that Iran and Hezbollah are the same. Without Iran, Hezbollah has no money, they have no technology, no weapons to wage war against Israel. I just read the Director of National Intelligence report regarding the status of the Iran nuclear program. It was unnerving, and I would urge every member of the House and the Senate to read it. The advancements made by the Iranian regime regarding weapons-grade plutonium is unnerving. Their ability to enrich to weapons grade is now a matter of weeks, not months. Their ability to weaponize the material has advanced, and it is now time for Congress to lend their voice to the proper response. Today I'm introducing a resolution that would authorize the use of military force by the United States to stop an Iranian nuclear breakout. The resolution would be triggered if the President determines that Iran possesses uranium enriched to a weapons grade level, a nuclear warhead, or to possess a delivery vehicle capable of delivering a nuclear device against Israel or other allies of the United States. Iran will keep going until somebody tells them to stop. It is time to put red lines on their nuclear program. The idea of ambiguity is not working. As we talk about their program gets larger and more lethal. After having viewed the DNI report, I believe it is a certainty that if we do not change course, Iran will, in the coming weeks or months, possess a nuclear weapon. This, in my view, would be the ultimate game changer in the Mideast. The response of the Arab world would be to acquire their own nuclear device, would have a nuclear arms race in the Mideast, in many ways would be on the road to Armageddon. Hania, the negotiator for Hamas, is not a moderate. There were no moderate Nazis, and there are no moderate members of Hamas. He knew what the organization was about, and I hold him responsible, as Israel did, for the attack of October the 7th. He was killed in Iran. Why was he in Iran? He was in Iran to pay homage to the new president of Iran, a so-called moderate. At the ceremony acknowledging the election of this new moderate, the audience was chanting, "Death to America, death to Israel." To the world, wake up before it's too late. Israel's not the bad guy here. It's radical Islamic terrorist groups surrounding the state of Israel that spin on the destruction of the Israeli state that are the bad guys. And the ultimate Satan in this power play in the Mideast is Iran. So I'm going to challenge the American political system to acknowledge the obvious, that the most provocative regime on the planet is Iran. They're the largest state sponsor of terrorism. They're trying to develop a nuclear weapon, not a peaceful nuclear power program. They're bent on the destruction of Israel and eventually us. It is now time to put them on notice, hold them accountable for their proxies, and make them pay a price for the discord they've created in the world, particularly the Mideast. These 12 young children who were killed on a soccer field were killed by the Iranians. Hezbollah was the agent of the attack. October 7th slaughtering of 1,200 Jews was done by the Iranians through Hamas. So our friends in Israel, if you hit by Hezbollah, strike hard, strike lethal, and include Iran on the target list. Be glad to take questions.
Senator Graham, what do you make of the concerns that we've been seeing today from hostage families that because Israel took out their top negotiator, this now sets them back and those hostages will never get out?
Real concern. I understand it, but I also understand what Israel is trying to do. They're trying to stop further attacks against the Jewish state. And I do believe the best way to get the hostages released is make the cost of doing business so high for Iran, they will change course. I think that's the tactic Israel has taken. They have vowed to hold those responsible for October 7th anytime, anywhere, and they're making good on that promise. I still believe it's possible to have a ceasefire and to have the hostages released, but the actions by Israel today, or yesterday, I think are a continuation of a policy that served the Jewish state well.
Secretary Graham, thank you. Jack Bradley with NTD News. I just want to ask, just over a week ago, Secretary Blinken said that Iran is about 1 or 2 weeks away from developing materials to develop a nuclear weapon. Would that be enough under this legislation to ask the U.S. military to fight back?
What I'm trying to do with the authorization to use military force legislation is to tell the president that Congress is with you if you find conditions exist that there's an imminent breakout, that there is a real threat that Iran would acquire not only a nuclear capability but the means to deliver it. So Secretary Blinken is speaking truth here. There's an unclassified report and there's the classified portion regarding Iran's malign activity in terms of terrorism, but also of their nuclear program. What I read really bothered me, and that's why I'm here today. I believe that we're on the verge of a major conflict over the Iran nuclear program, where Israel will be forced to act in a decisive manner sooner rather than later. And the absence of red lines by the United States has led to aggression by Iran on the nuclear front, and it's time to reset.
Piggybacking off of that, how close do you think we are to that breakout from Iran?
Close enough for me to be saying what I'm saying.
Can I ask you about the Saudi deal? I know you've been very passionate about that. What do you think this strike by Israel does to that?
I think Saudi considers Hamas the problem, not the solution. I don't think there are any tears in Riyadh right now over the death of any Hamas leader. Hezbollah has been a disruptive force. The Houthis have been disruptive. I think, truth be known, in Saudi Arabia, they probably agree with me that all these organizations have one thing in common: sponsorship by the Iranians. So the ability of the Saudis to normalize with Israel, I think, requires the destruction of Hamas. So they cannot come back again, because if they're allowed to come back again, it will be hard to transform the West Bank and Gaza. I think the best thing that can happen to the Palestinian people is the destruction and marginalization of Hamas, so that others can come in and help the Palestinian people build a community not based on terrorism. So I don't think it deters the deal. In a way, I think it reinforces the need for the deal.
Senator, are you going to?
Yeah, I'll be right back with you. Don't go away.
What support do you expect from your colleagues from the other side of the aisle?
I don't know. I would have hoped that there would be unanimity that Iran and Hezbollah are one and the same. That we would be understanding in America that if Israel is attacked in a significant way by Hezbollah, that they would be right to go after the Iranians. The ability to generate revenue for the terrorist state Iran goes back to their oil production. I've been arguing this for over a year. They will continue to be disruptive until the price is too high. And I think one thing that will change their calculation is if they believe that Israel, Western powers, the United States, would in fact put their oil production in jeopardy. So I am urging Israel to make sure that when you respond to Hezbollah, you go to the source of the problem, which is Iran. Now, I'm hoping my colleagues will see the need for this.
Senator, just slightly off topic, but are you going to ask the Biden-Harris administration to recognize the Venezuelan opposition leader candidate as a new president-elect? And what actions can we expect from the U.S. government regarding the election in Venezuela?
One crisis at a time, but yeah, I think Maduro's election was tainted, and that's probably a good thing you just said.
Thank you for doing this. Have you spoken to, piggybacking off of what she asked, have you spoken to the Biden administration at all about this? And are you worried about
I have spoken to the Biden administration about the need to reset. I can't say that we had complete agreement, but there is an understanding that Iran's mischief needs to come to an end, and that they're running wild, and it is now time to hold them more accountable, not less. And this idea of a massive response by Hezbollah against Israel, we need to change that dynamic and let Iran know that you cannot use those proxies in Lebanon without it facing reprisals in Iran itself. And I think I have many Republican colleagues with me, hopefully some Democratic colleagues. Why am I saying this? Because I think if we don't do something decisive now, it's going to get far worse quick. Yeah.
Do you see the conflict with either Iran or Hezbollah requiring boots on the ground at any point?
No, not by us.
Have you spoken to the former president about this idea? Is he supportive if he were to be in the White House? I mean, does he need Congress's authority?
I would argue that Article 2 powers probably are sufficient, but I am trying to get the Congress on record. Where are we as a body? I mean, the question is, do you support using military force if that's required to stop a nuclear breakout by Iran? The answer for me is yes. And I think every member of Congress should be asked that question and vote accordingly. Because if you allow the breakout of Iran where they acquire a nuclear capability that can be delivered against Israel and others, you're going to open up Pandora's box in the Mideast. Those of us in my business have to do more than criticize or cheer from the sidelines. I'm trying to get Congress in the game. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to get Congress to state policies that will resonate in Tehran, that will be resonate in the Mideast, that the Arabs will see us as a better ally. You asked a very good question. I think if America took a stronger stance against Iran, the peace deal is more likely, not less. I think the Abraham Accords were a result of being strong against the great Satan Iran. And I think our policies have undercut the idea that we're going to hold Iran accountable for all their misadventures, and people are less likely to align with the United States. You had 12 kids killed playing soccer. That needs to stop. And the rockets used came from Iran. All the money, all the equipment used to attack Israel on October the 7th, all that came from Iran. So I consider Iran responsible for all of these events. And going forward, I want the Iranians to know if Israel decides to hit one of your refineries because you've unleashed Hezbollah to open up another front against the Jewish state, I think that would be the right thing for Israel to do.
Sorry, I came in late. How many co-sponsors do you have in this at this point?
Nobody. And I've done this on purpose to give us a chance to go home and think about it. I hope every member of Congress is asked, do you believe that an attack by Hezbollah should be considered an attack by Iran against Israel? If not, why not? And if you believe that, should that change the target set in terms of reprisal? It's time for us to think this through. The fact that the political head of Hamas was attending an event in Iran, that says to me that Israel believes anytime, anywhere is their policy when it comes to leaders of terrorist organizations. And I personally adopt that policy. I think President Obama made a good decision when he went into Pakistan to take out Osama bin Laden. That was a hard political decision. That was a major military achievement. He deserves great credit because he sent a signal that no matter where you go, you cannot hide if you harm America. And that's exactly what Israel is trying to say. There's a reason we went into Pakistan to get bin Laden, because he orchestrated the death of thousands of Americans. There's a reason this man was taken out in Iran, and I don't know if Israel did it or not, but I can say this, they would be justified if they did.
Some of your Democratic colleagues have said to me when I've asked them today about the strike that killed the Hamas political leader, that they're very concerned about escalation and that they feel that there are still other ways to deter them without strong-arming Iran. What do you say to them?
I just say that is not working. The Mideast is on fire. How much more evidence do you need that giving them more money doesn't help the cause? We went from 300,000 barrels of oil production to over 1 million. Well, the money they've achieved in terms of selling more oil has gone into their war machine, not roads, bridges, and hospitals. It's time to declare Iran not only on paper a state sponsor of terrorism, but in reality. The model used by us to go after al-Qaeda types after 9/11 is the same model Israel is using. And I think that's the only model that will work. There's no place to hide if you kill Jews.
Would the legislation work toward the bigger picture of keeping the Chinese Communist Party's influence out of the region?
Well, I'll leave it up to China as to what they want to do regarding Iran and whether they want to help Iran. But I also have new legislation that I introduced 2 days ago with the coordination of President Trump, that if you buy oil from the Iranian regime, then we'll put tariffs on your products coming in the United States. I think the sanctions are not working. So China and India and other countries are enriching this terrorist state by buying oil below market. They're helping their economy. They're enriching a terrorist state. And I want them to pay a price. I want them to stop. The sanctions clearly not working. So I'm coming up with terrorism tariffs. What's the theme here? Iran, you keep doing this at your own peril. And to those on helping Iran, you keep doing this at your own peril. Yes, ma'am.
Have you approached your European allies in the Parliament in European countries to join you on the different?
I don't know. I hope they would see Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism that needs to be reined in. I hope they would understand that Israel has every right to go after the leaders of these organizations who vow to destroy the Jewish state, not help the Palestinians. That will be up to Europe. But I'm trying to set policy for America that I think will make us safer. And we'll never be safe here at home as long as we let Iran run wild. The policies of appeasement haven't worked. The policies of enrichment have not worked. When President Trump was in the White House, we had Iran in a box. And he did that through sanctions, targeted force, and that worked. What's happened and what's different? There's been an all-out effort to destroy the Jewish state, to undermine its existence, to marginalize it throughout the world, to attack in a way we haven't seen since the Holocaust on October the 7th. And now there is a threat coming from Iran that if Israel keeps protecting itself and going after the masterminds of terrorism, they will pay a heavy price. So here's my message to the Ayatollah and the new president of Iran. If you want to keep this up, you do so at your own peril. Thank you.
If you